This IEM has one burning question. Can this IEM indeed spark joy?
Choose items that spark joy for you.
Spark joy.
Spark joy.
Hello and thank you for clicking on this video where I'll be sharing my experience of a first time release from a new company called Joyodio Shine. I like the pun used as a name for this company. Joy Audio. Get it? I mean, because audio is spelled O-D-I. You get the picture. Anyway, this IEM will set you back $80, which makes me curious how much more are you getting from the cheaper alternatives. Before we continue, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Linsol for providing this unit in exchange for my honest opinion, but rest assured they will have no influence on my feedback and all thoughts and opinions are my own. If you've been enjoying my content, please do consider hitting the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate your support. With that out of the way, let's spark some joy, but let's talk about accessories first. In the box, you get an instruction manual of different tunings, more on that later, some interchangeable ear tips, a carry pouch which looks quite similar to the Do New pouch, just without the logo and slightly different finish. It comes with a cable with a microphone and a balanced 3.5mm termination, and it uses the S-type connectors which are typically found in lower priced IEMs. The cable itself is fine. You kind of have that Trip Owen cable weave feel if you ever have one. It's thin, it's light, it has a bit of a plasticky feel to it. It's not the worst I've seen, but it's nothing to write home about either. But at least this one comes with a mic. And this is how the mic sounds. Personally, I wouldn't know whether this sounds bad or good until I edit this video, which will be too late by then, so I'll let you be the judge of the sound quality on this mic. For the design, I really like how they did the sides and the body with the dark smoky grey in which you can sort of see through a little if you're focusing hard enough, and that curving for the lines on the side like a Samsung phone. It all looks good until you get to the faceplate where it just looks like Wolverine came into the factory one day and started scratching up some faceplate. And they went, yeah, looks great. Good thing is that if you made another dent on the faceplate, it's going to blend well with the design, so future-proof, I guess. One thing I have to highlight is the faceplates for the switches, so if I'm looking at them straight ahead, it would seem that one plate is on the opposite direction. So if I wanted to match them, I'd have to turn the other one upside down. And it seems that this was intentional, which is probably due to maybe how the mechanism would work on the opposite side, and it's not a big issue, but you have to be mindful when you're toggling switches. For fit and comfort, I have no problems with this IEM. It's just at that size where it's not too big or too small for my ears personally. They are sticking out a little, but the cables and connectors form a hook that makes this IEM stay in my ears for hours, no problem. For ear tips, I feel that ear tips influence the sound quite a bit on this IEM. On their stock tips, I'm getting about the same experience as some other people, but when I'm putting on these ear tips which has narrower ends, I'm getting an experience that is quite enjoyable for me personally, and I still hear the difference in the settings, so I'll be describing the sound based on these ear tips. I'm not particularly sure what these ear tips are called, but I'll add a description if I find out, but I'm getting similar experiences with the SpinFit CP100 as well. Since there is 4 switches per side, on paper it gives you the possibility of 16 different tuning choices per side. But just wanting to be real here, you'll probably end up liking maybe 1 to 3 switch configurations at best, but at least you've got options. And I'll be talking about the 5 main configuration as suggested by the manual and my personal preference among all of them. The overall sound presentation is more forward, but the biggest change in the frequency response when you're toggling the switches is more towards the treble and bass region, according to the frequency response graph. But my personal experience is quite different to what the graph is suggesting. Let's talk about it. For standard mode, it's essentially all switches off. This IEM is cool in a sense that you get to experience what lo-fi and hi-fi literally sounds like. All the settings are tested at the same volume, and when all switches are off, bass is audibly punchy but not impactful. It's just there, it bleeds into the mid-range. There's rumble, sure, mids are a little bit more recessed, not much treble, everything sounds blended together. It's just nope. I wouldn't even bother because at bass settings, to be extremely honest, there are many $20 IEMs that sounds better than this. However, flick one switch at number 4 and you get the HIFI mode. It is like turning the sound on, figuratively and literally. Okay, this is where I'm a little baffled. The frequency response graph on the HIFI setting would suggest a flatter response in the bass region. But for my experience at the HIFI setting, I'm not sure if it's these ear tips, I'm not sure if it's the plate in the wrong direction that I'm actually turning something else on or off, but I'm getting punchy, impactful, clean bass that is very enjoyable, especially at this price point. If you have this IEM and these ear tips, put them on with the hi-fi setting and let me know in the comment section down below, do you share the same experience as me or am I crazy? Because this is one of those great examples of frequency responses not giving you the full story. I'm still getting the rumble from the sub bass. It's not very deep but enough to accompany the music. I'm getting some air and clarity on the trumpet notes. They sound powerful, the mid-range sounds cleaner, the vocals are coming through, there's treble extension and enough treble without sounding harsh or sibilant. Sure, they are not the best in terms of separation and resolution, but at this price point, they are good enough and definitely better than the standard setting. They do sound a little forward, so it may be slightly fatiguing if you prefer a more relaxing presentation, but as an overall, I actually enjoy this sound presentation and in fact it's one of my most favorite settings. R&B mode. Push the number 1 switch and it supposedly increases the sub bass and you do hear more sub bass, but if I'm being completely honest, you get more sub bass in terms of quantity but not necessarily quality. It's a little uncontrolled and it just sounds like the drivers are pushed beyond its limit of what it can actually do. I honestly thought I'd love this setting, but I was quite disappointed and I actually prefer the bass presentation on the hi-fi setting instead. However, if you just want more sub bass in your track, then at least there's a switch for you. Classical mode. Turning the number 3 switch on supposedly increases the ultra high frequency, which I'm assuming treble extension, and if you're concerned that this setting will switch it to being a treble monster, curb your treble expectations. Because there's a very slight difference in the sound, although noticeable if you're really focusing on it. There's a little bit more bite to the treble performance, hi-hats sound more distinct, there's a bit more attack on the S's and T's, but it still isn't harsh for me, and it just helps the details come through a little bit clearer, but again, the differences are quite minor. It's not making the details or separation significantly better, but it just helps. I still don't think this will satisfy treble hits if you're looking for that piercing highs. I could toss between this setting and the hi-fi mode, but most of the time I still stuck with hi-fi mode. Turning all of the switches on will give you the pop mode. I believe number 2 switch turns on the high frequency, which I'm assuming is in the treble region, and turning all the switches essentially turns this into a V or U-shaped IEM. But this setting is my second least favorite setting after the standard mode. The bass sounds like a louder presentation of the standard mode, which is to say it's audibly punchy but not as impactful as the hi-fi setting, unlike the standard mode. However, unlike the standard mode, the mid-range is much clearer and much cleaner, but the highs are where the treble is edging towards that sharp end. It's still bearable, but it sounds like the lower to mid frequencies were taking a small step away so the treble can come through a lot more, but as an overall presentation, it simply reminds me of the CCA CRA, although slightly better, but it's just not a setting that I choose personally. For power, this IEM surprisingly requires a bit of power on the 3.5 balance termination. I'm getting to about 10 to 11 o'clock on my EF400, but my phone is able to power it enough with 10 to 20% volume left to spare, but I feel it benefits a little bit more from having a more powerful source. So in summary, for me personally, for an $80 set, I feel you're getting your values worth as a whole. Sure, you may need to take some time to tinker a little bit, but the great thing about this is that it gives you options to suit your mood on the day, which is something not a lot of IEMs, if not no IEMs, can do at this price point at the time of recording this video other than the Joyodio Shine. With that all said, that concludes my experience with the Joyodio Shine. Thank you again to Linso for this opportunity, and most importantly, I thank all of you for watching. Do let me know your thoughts. Are switches on an IEM the next step forward? Comment below, let me know, and until the next experience, take care and happy listening.